Today we're looking at the Montech Sky One ARGB computer case, and this is my third Montech case. If you guys follow my channel for a while, you've seen the previous two ones. I had the Montech Air 900 and the Montech Air X. Both of them were very good computer cases, and I'm still using them in two of my builds in the house because they provide a lot of air ventilation and some smart ideas for a pretty good price. But today we're gonna look at the Sky One. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hardware Sense channel. My name is Ivan, and today we are looking at the Montech Sky One computer case. And this one got my attention when it was released towards the end of the last year, and I wanted to see this one right away, but the price was very high and it kept me from getting it and reviewing it on the channel. And still, currently it's been listed on Amazon for $99, which, you know, it's $100. But recently Newegg ran a promotion on this case and it was $65 only, so I immediately jumped on it. I wanted to buy it and see it, review it, and compare it to the other Montech cases I had on my channel. There were sub $70 cases, which were excellent. Now, for $65, this one is very exciting because it offers a lot of features that you guys are gonna see that are kind of reserved for much more expensive and bigger cases, and at the same time offers the same excellent air ventilation. But I'm gonna open the box, pop the case on the table. We're gonna look at all the little details about this case and every option that we can use to install our motherboards inside and achieve a beautiful build up. So yeah, let's go ahead and check it out. And of course, at the end, we're gonna talk about it in the conclusion. So quickly before I open it, I just wanna point your attention to a few things to kind of, throughout the video, you can take a look. One of the things that really attracted me to this case is this massive mesh, fine mesh perforated front. And this is the only filter. They're not providing anything behind to kind of impede the airflow or the intake. So this fine mesh serves as the filter for all the intake fans, and this case actually includes one intake fan and one exhaust. The exhaust fan is ARGB, the intake fan unfortunately is not, but if you grab like a cheaper 3-fan kit, you can replace that front one with 3 RGBs and put them there if you want to, or non-RGB and just rely on that middle strip. So that strip right on the middle here is ARGB. We're gonna turn that on later and see how it performs and how it lights up. But I think the design is very clean, very professional, very nicely done. And the other thing that really kind of attracted me as well is the space. So this case has a lot of space and has a lot of clearance if you want to install 240 or 360 radiators on the top, like they're meant to be and like they're supposed to be installed. And one thing that really surprised me when I opened the case is actually the top of the case where the AIOs and the power buttons are. All the AIOs are capped or protected, I guess, by these rubber inserts. I've never seen that before in other case, and that's a very expensive touch. I'm not sure why they invested money on this, because the moment you get it, you're gonna take these off, you're gonna be using this AIO and you're not gonna keep it empty. Of course, we have a magnetic filter on the top. One thing to know is this magnetic filter is very soft. This is probably the softest one I've seen. The magnets on the side are very thin. They're not thick like most of those I've seen. It fits perfectly well. So yeah, let's go ahead and open the main compartment. I'm gonna bring the camera in. I'm gonna point out the things that I'm personally very excited about, and they make a lot of sense engineering wise for your build, and it's gonna be easier to work with, and it's gonna create a lot more comfort and of course a better performance for your hardware. So yeah, let's go ahead and check it out. So real quick before I open the glass panel, all the screws in the back that are holding the panel and the right side panel that it's not glass are capped. So once you unscrew that from the chassis, the screw actually stays. That's a good touch and expensive. Just a quick look on the back, you see where our 120 millimeter ARGB fan is already mounted right here. On the bottom, we have 7 removable plates. And these are not the cheap ones that you just twist and break and throw away. These are reusable, great to see. More expensive touch right here as well. 2 vertically mounted plates as well, if you choose to mount your graphics card like this. I personally don't advise to do that, but it's up to you. And if we look at the glass again, you will see that the glass is not one of those that the thumb screws are on the side here, which is the cheaper version, but right on the back. So once you unscrew it, you can actually pull and take this whole panel off, which is framed in metal. So that creates a better fit and looks a lot more expensive and nicer. So I'm gonna take this panel off to the side real quick. And now we're gonna continue in the inside of the case. And one thing that I noticed immediately, and that's the first thing I'm looking at cases, is the clearance between the top mounting point of the motherboard and the roof of the case. Is it giving you enough space for a radiator and fans? And this one, I believe it's gonna be able to fit a radiator and a set of fans. It's not gonna be able to do a push-pull, but that's fine. The cutouts are big and white, but no rubber grommets on them. When you look at the bottom where the motherboard tray is, right here, we are going to have 3 cutouts, again, very wide and very convenient. And you ask, well, why does that matter? Because those tricky thick USB 3 cables normally don't go too well or being routed through smaller holes on the cases, and this one provides more space for that. Here on the back we have that 120 millimeter fan, which has like these foam pads for better sound insulation. It's 4-pin, addressable, very good. And this is the RGB cable, which we're gonna see in the back for a second. And this is the other fan in the front. That is the non-RGB 120 millimeter fan as well. You will see how the fans are mounted inside of the frame. That creates about an inch and a half clearance or distance between the back of the fan and the mesh front, which additionally provides more air for these fans to breathe. They're not slapped against the mesh, or they're not slapped against this RGB strip in the middle. So that provides you more space here behind it for that air to circulate and being pushed inside without being obstructed too much. And looks like we can install not only 120 millimeter fans, but also 140 millimeters as well. And the fans can be reallocated up and down. So about an inch clearance, we have about an inch of clearance to move them up and down if we want to. Another great thing here about this case is you'll see this white strip of metal plate that kind of hides the cutouts in the back where the cables will come from the power supply to the motherboard. And this is nothing new by Montech. Other companies have done it, but they have created these strips here, and we have a nice VGA or graphics card support arm, which can be relocated whatever you want it to be for the graphics card. And at the end of it is this nice rubberized cover, so you can have the graphics card being supported by this plate and don't slouch at the end. So this is a great feature. Again, I really like that, and that's one of the things that I noticed immediately when I look at this case on the promotional pictures and stuff like that, and I was excited about. 2.5-inch drive mount caddy right here. Something I really don't care about because I am not going to install any drives on the inside here. I prefer my builds to be very clean and all the drives to be behind the motherboard tray, not visible. I don't care for anybody or myself to see those drives. And there's an easy mounting system on this drive. You can just push and lift up. You will see these screws have rubber around them that channel through the back of the plate, that you can mount the drive and just slide it back in place. Very easily done. A lot of companies are doing this, and I'm glad that Montech have implemented this feature on this case as well. So a lot of expensive features, as you see already, and it looks like we're gonna have about 2.5-3 centimeters distance between the back of the motherboard tray and the right panel. We're gonna see that in a second. And here, cutout for the power supply, that we can see the branding and the label. I'm not a huge fan of that. I know a lot of people do like that. And speaking of power supply, you will see they actually are giving you a nice plastic framed, very thin mesh filter that you can slide in the back after you're cleaning it. This is again a sign of a more expensive case, because all the other models have this just a mesh kind of a filter that you gotta squeeze in and on the bottom and just take it out for cleaning. This is so much nicer implementation. And inside you'll see the 2 rails, which are this super thick foam on both sides where your power supply is gonna sit, creating a little bit of an extra clearance between the perforations on the bottom. So this way the power supply will draw some more air from the bottom, and the clearance again between the bottom of your desk and The actual case is about an inch or 2.5, maybe, yeah, 2.5, 3 centimeters. And the bottom of these feet are actually rubber. It's not that soft foam that you've seen on the other models. So again, more and more expensive details, like I mentioned. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pop this right panel as well, so we can look and see what we have on the inside. All right, taking the right panel off, big clearance. 4 power supplies right here. So if you go on the bottom, you'll see right here we have the power supply will be coming in. If it's not enough clearance for you, you can always unscrew this hard drive cage. Again, I'm not using hard drives in any of my computers in the last probably 10 years, especially gaming computers and stuff like that. Not for servers, obviously. But here we have a rail with a box that has all of our screws inside. So what's inside a little accessory box is what we have a user manual, very nice, actually detailed in English. All the screws with labeled pouches. Again, very convenient to see. We have 5 zip ties and we have the motherboard speaker, kind of an outdated thing to see, but yeah, regardless, it's here. And this is one of those kind of a plastic with rubberized isolators on both sides, so you can slide in your 3.5-inch hard drive and put it in there. But again, this is screwed to the bottom of the case, and if you don't need a hard drive or you need more space here, you can just unscrew that from the bottom and remove it, take it out of the way. So if we go up a little bit, you'll see we have 2 more 2.5-inch SSD drive cages here in the back, and we have our ARGB addressable controller right here. Of course, the power is SATA powered, very nice to see. And we have the 5-volt for your motherboard as well, so we can control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different devices, fans, light strips. Obviously we have already 1 front light strip and 1 fan plug. And here is the bundle of cables we see. They're all strapped with these hook and loop straps, and these are the cutouts behind the white plate right here, with all the I/O on top, kind of tucked behind and not too visible. We have this newer connector for the USB-C. Great to see that, because a lot of the new motherboards already have that. We have that thick USB 3.0, and the cutouts are done in a way that we can actually channel these hook and loop straps between and strap the cables nicely, tuck them behind. A lot of very smart engineering has went into this case. And finally, let's look at the front. See, this is the front of the case with the fine mesh. You kind of see the fans in the back. We have the Montech logo right on the top, the RGB strip running all the way down, and mesh, complete mesh front. And like I mentioned earlier, on the top we have the power, we have the reset switch, and these rubberized covers for the USBs. There's also a rubberized covers. So 2 USBs that can be USB 3 or USB 2 if you want to. We have USB-C, and that is it. So yeah, very nicely done. I think probably one of the nicest cases I've seen this year, with a lot of smart decisions implemented here. But of course, I'm gonna do a full build up and see how everything looks and how it performs. But yeah, so far I'm pretty impressed. And I hooked up a power supply real quick just to show you the functions, and you'll see the back RGB fan and the strip are synchronized. And for me to change the color, I can just press the reset button, and you'll see it changes the colors. And again, if I keep pressing it, we'll cycle through different colors. You know, this is kind of like the rainbow, another version, and then other ones that are preset, different single colors, and actually looks really nice. And not only the strip and the ARGB fan on the back, but also the logo on top of the case is also synchronized as well with the rest of it. And obviously the fan is not moving because it's not connected to the motherboard. Only the RGB is controlled by that controller in the back of the case. But overall, I think it looks very good. The colors are nice, and the front strip actually is pretty bright. And with the fan on in the back, you can see how fine the mesh is. But yeah, I think this case looks excellent. I think for the price, $65 that I bought it, and it's absolutely killer. For $100, I think it's a little bit much, considering you can get other more known brands with similar features for that price. but for 65, I definitely advise all of you, if you see it, go ahead and buy it, because this is an excellent case with some smart features that are implemented very well, and with ample amount of room here. I think ATX motherboard with 240 or 360 on top will be perfect. And of course, we're gonna have 3 fans in the front for intake, so a lot of air will be pushed into this case, and all your internal components will be able to breathe. And of course, we have this sturdy graphics card support, another great feature to see. And I'm glad it's coming from that backplate, not like right here from the front. Some cases have a riser right here, which it's not as clean. This way it looks better. All right, now, so if I go ahead and yank that front panel and remove it, I want to show you a few things there. Speak of quality and something you don't see on cheaper cases, and this is the connector right here. We have a pogo style connector for the front panel, which is just these 4 contact points right there. So no cables dangling. If you pull that front panel to clean it, you don't have to be worried about, oh, did I disconnect the cables first? Am I gonna rip the cables? You know, all that stuff. That is convenience, and it's much easier to work that way. And here is the panel, very solid. I'm gonna put it down real quick just to show you the contact point. So here is where, show you where these 4 pogo plugs are actually contacting. It's right here on the panel. This is where the power is going for that strip and for the logo on top. And just to put it back on, slot it in place and just press on the sides until it clicks, and that's it. But of course, as positives, there's always negatives as well. Now with the power supply mounted, there's not a lot of clearance between the top of the power supply and the power supply shroud. And you remember these big cutouts I pointed out earlier, how big and wide they are to ride cables. So if I swing around in the front of the case, you'll see what I mean, that not always good and not measured correctly. You see how the power supply here, it's actually blocking the access to these cutouts, which is not good. You cannot route any thick cables here, and if the power supply is longer, these 2 front cutouts will be completely blocked, and you'll have to rely only on the back one here, which, yeah, is nice and wide, but at the same time, these 2 become kind of obsolete unless you're running just smaller kind of a fan style cables. If they had given you a little bit more, maybe half a centimeter or a 1/4 inch height, so you can route the cables between the power supply and the shroud, it would have been much better, but that's what they decided to do, I guess. That's definitely worth mentioning. And the cable cover white plate is removed by these thumb screws as well. Unscrew this one on the top, one on the bottom, and you can take it out, easily route your cables, and then screw it back on in place. Easy to cover those cables. They're going to be protruding from here, this cutout. This is going to be your 24 pin, and some other ones, probably the VGA or the graphics card that you're going to have to run through there. Another big plus on the back tray, aside from the convenience and the space, which is very good, is actually all these tying points. You'll see the zip tying points. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 right here on this side. Unfortunately, nothing here on the top. Ideally, I would love to see 1 or 2 more right here so you can route some cables, and some here on the side. But maybe with this caddy here, if you're not using it, or even if you're using it, you can kind of route some cables right here and channel them off to the side so they won't be on your way too much. And interesting enough, they created these slots right here on that motherboard backplate cutout, similar to the ones right here for those hook and loop straps. Maybe they're thinking with the idea you can probably use those as well to route and kind of tie these cables a little bit more. But now from this angle, you can see how much space there's in the bottom, even with the power supply installed, even with the hard drive cage in place. You can kind of tuck, and this is not modular power supply obviously, but even without modular power supply, you can kind of tuck all these cables over the hard drive cage, and that way they're going to be out of the way. But with modular one, it will be even easier. Longer power supplies are supported, 18 centimeters long, no problem. If you remove the cage, the limit is the width of the whole case. Longer graphics card is supported. They let me go ahead and measure how long exactly graphics card can be supported. And as I thought, 36 centimeters is probably the maximum length of a graphics card you can use here before you hit these fans, considering if you have fans installed on inside of the frame. So 35 to 36 centimeters is going to be the longest graphics card. I think at the moment it's fine because there are rarely any graphics cards that are longer than that. And like I mentioned earlier, you can do vertical mount, but considering if you put the graphics card here, the distance between the front or the fans of the graphics card and the glass will be no more than 1.5 centimeters. It's not enough for the graphics card to breathe. It's going to be choked. I would personally install it regular way. So if your graphics card is right here, this is going to be your regular installation right here. So what do I think about the Montech Sky One? After thoroughly looking through this case today and kind of going over the details, I really like this case. I'm glad that my feeling that this is going to be a very good case, even from the time I saw it initially online, materialized. And this case is a very solid offering for all of you guys that are looking for space, convenience, smart decisions, and some well-engineered features. Again, if you find it for the same price I did, $65 or anything under $70, I personally believe this case is probably the top one you can get, even in front of some other brands more known like Fantex or Cooler Master, pretty much any other brand. I have seen cases from any other brand throughout the years, and most recently the more modern models. But this one implements a lot of the things that I really want to see in a case. Number one mentioned the clearance on top, so I can install 240 or 360 radiator for AIO, 3 fans on the front, fine mesh, nothing else to obstruct the air, exhaust 128 millimeters, plenty of room in the back of the case, plenty of room in the bottom for cables, for routing cables, for power supply cables, and nicely done side window that is not with the thumb screws on the side. That looks cheap, but the one that slides in and you have the frame and the screws on the back. So all these features cost money. The front panel you guys saw, we have the pogo connectors. It's not anything you need to disconnect. There's no cables. You don't have to think about all that stuff when cleaning it. If you want to vacuum and clean it inside, just pull the front forward, take the whole panel, give it a little vacuum, put it back on, and everything works. We have included ARGB controller in the back that, of course, we can switch and change with our reset button. Ideally, I would love to see a separate dedicated button for that, similar to what we have on the Montech ARX. That case had a dedicated reset button and dedicated ARGB button. Here they're combining it, so kind of on the cheap side. I really don't like to see that. Ideally, I would love to see a dedicated one. Personally, when I find some mode that I really like, I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm not gonna change that all the time. Like this one, for example, the rainbow. It's always a good option. So I can just leave it at that and unplug the reset switch, have it on my motherboard as a reset button, and use it that way. Ventilation, obviously we're gonna test that with a full build, but I have high expectations because of the large area of ventilation. This whole front is one intake, one big intake with that fine mesh, and especially with the fans mounted in at least 1 inch distance from the front of it. That way nothing will be obstructing that air going through your components. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Without me rambling more, I really like this case. I highly recommend it if you find it under $70. Beyond that price, currently $100 at Amazon, I would consider some other brands and I would look around if I find something better. Or maybe you add a couple more dollars and get a Lee case or something like that. But this case is very solid at $65 and it's absolutely killer. And I would recommend it to anybody that want to make a great build. Hit the thumbs up if you like the video. Stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe if you're new. Check out the link on the description below if you want to support the channel directly. And as always, guys, you have a wonderful day.